Yeah, looks like it started.
Yep, awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to a review sessions of the latest changes that are introduced into the final build of MC EMR 7.9.6. For those of you who are new here to this webinar sessions, my name is Peter from Projects team in Global Health. And these webinar sessions are just a informational or demonstration session rather than a training session itself. We plan to get all of you onto MCMR 7.9.6 eventually. So we are conducting these sessions, which introduces the latest changes incrementally version by version, so as not to overwhelm you all with a long list of changes by just having one session on 7.9.6. The main reason why we're doing this upgrade for you all onto MCMR 7.9.6 is because Services Australia is upgrading their digital health and aged care channels to web services and provider digital access. And this is going to affect your Medicare claiming. So by 13th of March 2022, our customers will need to be upgraded onto EMR version 7.9.6 to be compatible with these new claiming mechanisms. EMR clients who are not using Medicare claiming do not need to be upgraded, but we still do encourage everyone to get upgraded onto the latest versions, as there are certainly improvements as well as additional functions. Overall, new MDS have been introduced into EMR, such as Community Health, Home and Community Care, and Commonwealth Home Support Program. New MDS capabilities can be requested through support post 7.9.6 implementation. There are additional governmental functions that have been introduced, such as MyHealth Record, Australian Immunisation Registrar, National Data Exchange, has also been added into EMR 7.9.6 and are available to be implemented post 7.9.6 as well upon request. This webinar session will be recorded and circulated via the Zendesk link. If anyone who doesn't have that or doesn't have access to that, let me know, and I can share the link here for you guys to access. Everyone here besides me and my team members will be muted, so any questions, please feel free to do so via the text chat, and I'll try my best to answer them directly today, or I can follow them up at a later stage. I have also posted 2 links onto our text chat. The first one is to our Zendesk knowledge base, which contains all the training materials for MasterCare. The other link is for release note 7.9.6. Sorry, I must have sent that wrong link there. There you go. This one is to the release note 7.9.6, which contain the all the training materials that I'm going to be covered today. So today's session is a recap of session 1 and 2. I'll be covering changes to demographics, occasion of service, referrals, episodes, appointments, billing, and some general administrative changes. And before we start with our sessions, we had 2 questions from session 2, one from Brandon and one from Lee. So the first question from Brandon was that, will the system let the admin know if an APRA registration is expiring? So in previous session where I talked about the APRA number, a new field that we have added onto the staff table, and you also have the ability to record the registration date. So to answer these questions, I've double checked with our developers, and currently the system doesn't do this yet. So we would not notify admin or staff of the expire registration date. However, if this is required and you would like to have this item for your EMR, please send support an email, and we can raise a development request for this to be put into our future release roadmap. So it can be done for 7.9.7, for example. And Lee also asked about the SQL EMR reports, where I showed you last time. There is a little SQL read-only box, and you asked if we can toggle on and off the read-only permission, so staff cannot edit that little box. So the answer is no, we cannot turn it on or off. But there is one setting that Jane mentioned last time, which is called report admin, where when you set to 0, staff will not have access to entire EMR report. So if you can see my screen, normally there would be a MasterCare EMR report somewhere around here, but oh, sorry, I think I just got the connection lost. Just lost the connection. Just give me a few seconds. Is it a black screen for you, Nadia?
Yeah, I can see only the connection lost screen.
Right, okay, yep, should be
I
back
think it's
in.
coming back up.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep, so previously you should be able to see a MasterCare EMR report just somewhere here, where you can go onto there and go onto the report. So if that setting is set to 0, you would know you'll not be able to see this. If, however, if I change this one back to 1, let's say I change this row back to 1 for all staff type, and if I'm going to exit MasterCare, just go back in. There you go. You should be able to see this report where you can now access and go into the MasterCare email report. So if this works for you at the moment, then I would encourage you to just keep using this. If you ever need an enhancement to have that permission to change it to read only, please do let us know, and I can raise a development request for you for this one to be grayed out, for example. Yep, not a problem, Lee. All right, so now back to the session. So in session 1, I did talk about demographics. I did mention about the there is a new role setting called Edit Alert, and you should be able to locate it under Admin Module, Admin Client Module, Role tab, and at the very end you should see Edit Alert. This one carry 2 values. 1 for allow staff to add or edit an alert, and 0 allow staff to only view the added alerts, but they will not be able to add or edit any alert via that alert screen, but they can still deactivate that alert. So how is it going to look in the front end is, if you have that one set to 1, so at the moment I do have that one set to 1. When you access a client record, you should be able to see the alert popping up like this, where you'll be able to edit the alert. So I can say, let's say test 1, 2, 3, save it, it's going to edit it down here, or you can just add a new, you can add a new alert, let's say new alert, something like this. All right, and you can also deactivate the alert as well. However, if I'm going to change this one back to, just going to exit MasterCare first. If I'm going to change this one to 0, save it, go back into MasterCare and launch it again. You should now still be able to see that alert, but you will not be able to edit or add anything new. So going to client record. There you go. Still going to pop up like this, but now you see that there's no more add new alert box here, and you cannot type or delete or anything like that. So you can only deactivate this alert. There has also been a new file location tab that has been added to the physical file MISC, which we have merged this one with a new file location tab, where we included in a new checkbox for you to show the miscellaneous information. So if you go to physical files MISC, you should now be able to see the physical file has been merged into just one view with the file location. And in here, you can add new file type for location, volume, start date, day last entry, etc., a note. And if there is any extra information, you can always click on this tick box and then just type in anything down here. just to record that additional information for this location. We have also done a bug fix for SMS, where now we have enabled the SMS to be sent when the SMS consent is set to both. So previously, it's only worked when you set this one to SMS and not both. But now we have did a bug fix and allowed this one to be sent when you choose both as well. So both is in both SMS and email. Right. Okay. Moving on to the next topics of occasion of service. On the Group OS screen, when you go to Manage Group, go into a specific groups, all the info from previous recorded OS will be retained for selection on all the clients in that group. So let's say we're going to this Peter test group. Open that group. As you can see, I have recorded an OS for this episode for this client. So any information that I recorded for this client will be carried forward when I try to collect an OS for this client as well. So as you can see, if I don't select anything, it will just be blank. If I, however, let's say if I just going to here, where this guy already got this collected, and going back to here, you should be able to see all these coming up against that for this client. So all the information that you just edited recently will be retained. This one to save users some time, having to reselect some repetitive values such as locations, outcomes, or nature of service, given that the client belongs to just one group or one event. All right, on to the next items of referrals and episodes. Users are now able to include tags for referrals. They can have one tag or multiple tags or labels. This new feature. So if you go to referral, you should be able to see there is a new label column. With this new column, what you can do is you can right click onto the referral, choose hover on this labels. It should show you any value for the labels or tags here, where you can then select or deselect it. And it's going to be recorded in this column like this. We have also included this one in front end. So if you go to the referral allocation, load referral, you should also see this, where you can do the exact same thing, where you can right click onto it, go to labels, select or deselect it, and it's going to be saved for that referral. To add a new labels or to delete or update, go to admin clients, go to lookup tables up here and look for tag. Go. Oh, sorry, it should be labels. Yep, label type. There you go. So you should have two. You can add in a new one, or you can just edit one of the labels to something else, something like that. You can also tag a referral with multiple color-coded tags in RefNet as well. So if any user currently using RefNet, you can always go to here, go to inbox. I don't currently have any example here, but you should be able to locate a new label columns where you should be able to perform the exact same action that I just did. Right click on that and just change the labels to whichever labels that you like. You can select or deselect it accordingly. All right, on the topic of referrals, we have also added in multiple validation to ensure the recording of dates are in proper sequence throughout the patient journey with the health service. So if I were to go to, let's say, this test care client, cancel these out, to referrals, and let's say I would like to add in a new referral. The new validation are, if you have a referral date, the referral receive date cannot be before that referral date. So if I'm going to put 19, you're going to see a warning message to you that the referral receive date cannot be before referral date. And please add a receive date on or after referral date. So upon clicking OK or X, it's going to clear that box out. Now you need to select a date that is on or after this date. So it works the same for acknowledgement date. Choose something before, you get this validation message telling you not to do so. Etc. etc. We've also added a similar validation for episode, where when upon admitting that episode, the admission date must be on or after the referral acknowledgement date. Similarly with discharge or OS screen, where you want to add or edit an OS. If you're going to backdate it before the admission date, you're going to get an error message. Or if you're going to edit it to before that, after the discharge date, you're going to get a message as well. All right, just lost connection again. Let's give it a few seconds. So to sum it up, we just add in a date validation for referral for episodes and for OS, so that you cannot have an OS before the referral is received, for example, or you cannot have an OS after an episode has already been discharged, for example. We have also added in a tiny enhancement to allow closed referral status to be displayed on admit and discharge screen. So when you're trying to discharge an episode that linked to a closed referral, let's say this one, for example, previously we don't record that information here, and we just leave it blank. But now we have included this one here as a read only, so that user can see which one they are trying to discharging that episode from. So for example, this one. So referral ID is closed, ID 11 is closed, but upon discharging, you're still going to be able to see it. Yeah. And also, there is another validation that we have added, where upon deleting a discharge, if you update or delete an episode event that is discharge, there will be a new warning message telling you to confirm that deleting an episode event would unlink any document, measure, entries, referrals, and also referral end date will be updated or referral end date will be removed, depending on if you're updating or deleting the event. If you would like to continue doing so, you can click yes to move forward. Otherwise, you can go no and just go back. Just cancel out that action. And as you notice, I do have a planned episode event here. So to cancel out an episode event, what you need to do is to go to admit discharge, choose that planned episode where it doesn't have an admission date, and just click cancel. Upon clicking cancel, you would need to confirm that is currently linked to your correct referral. You have a cancellation reason, and you have an episode event called cancel. If you click save, instead of this one be removing from the episode grid, we retain this information with a new event added called cancel event. And now you will see the episode status change to cancel. If you do want to see the reason that this one was canceled, you can always go to episode cancellation reason, where it's going to tell you why this one has been canceled. And when you cancel out, so let's say if you cancel by mistake, or let's say you would like to reuse this episode, you can always just go back to that cancel and just delete out that episode event. So upon deleting it, it will also prompt you the same message where anything that this episode event is linked to, it'll be removed or deleted. Would you like to continue? If you click yes, you will now see this one going back to plan instead of cancel. And then you can reuse this one to admit the patient. Yeah, like admit is no longer grayed out. All right, we have also added a new grid called discharge reason, where it is available for teams or specific for all teams and episode types, and display here. This one is going to tell you why this episode has been discharged. So for example, in this one where the service has been completed, that's why this episode was discharged. So to edit that, you would need to go to lookup tables in admin client, go to discharge reason lookup. So here, where you can specify which one you would like to have for your discharge reason. So you can just add the next one by pressing on the insert key button on your keyboard or the arrow down button. And then just save change to save whatever changes you've made. And that's it. You should have option to select when discharging. And this one will also be selectable in the analysis report as well. So if you go to report, analysis report, go to episode analysis, you should now be able to see the many new columns that we have added in here. And one of those would be cancel reason, plan cancel date, plan start date. So if you go cancel reason, there you go. Any episode that was planned that has been cancelled will have a reason coming up under this column. All right, on to the next topic of appointments. To billing and scheduling. So we have changed the way how deleting appointments are recorded. Deleted appointments are recorded in our database. So previously we removed it completely from the database, but now we have added a new column called deleted date and deleted by to collect the person who deleted it and when it was deleted in our backend table. And when you, as a user, you would have the ability to go into that report by here. So if you go to reports under billing and scheduling, go to this deleted appointments, specify the day range that you would like this one to populate for. So let's say if I just choose that, you'll be able to see which appointment has been deleted, on what date, and by whom under here. You can also export them to Excel or preview this report as well, which can come in handy. We have also did a tiny enhancement on arrive time for group patients. So if you, let's say if you do have a, so I think it was on a 17. Yep. So if you do have a group appointment, and if you would like, instead of avoiding arriving the whole or the patient in this group, you can arrive them individually. When you arrive them individually, it's going to come onto this script as, let's say, test Kevin arrived like 10,000 minutes ago, for example. So previously it's only worked for individual appointment, and it doesn't work for group appointment yet, but we have enhanced this one to work for individual patients that are in a group appointment as well. So for the next item is default roster. So a default roster can be created in the same way as a normal roster block. You can create so let's say for this roster, I would like to create a default roster. All I have to do is just click on add, just like how you would add a normal roster, specify the start date, start time, end time, specify the team that you would like this roster to be applied for, the type, and tick this tick box default. This tick box is going to help you differentiate between a default roster and a non-default roster. So there's only one roster block that can be set as default under one day using this checkbox. And the difference between a default roster and a standard roster is that a default roster will be displayed in any gaps between the roster block for the day of that roster during a specified available period. So for example, in this scenario where I do have a 8 to 5 default roster, and I do have a lunch roster of 12 to 1 and another roster client home visit 4 to 5. So I do have some gap between 8 to 12 and 1 to 4. So it's going to look in the front end like this. So from 12 to 1, I would have a lunch roster like how I specified before, 4 to 5 client home visit, and any gap between that would have a the new consult, which is the default roster block in between. So this one to help you saving time from having to keep adding or inserting a one roster block for all the gaps that I have between each standard roster blocks. And also with this new default roster, if a roster block is added that having the same start time as the default roster block, it will be saved just fine without any error. The only difference is that, so for example, on Tuesday, I do have a default roster from 8 to 5. And now I would like to add in a new one for client home visit from 8 to 11. I can just add it and save it just fine. Make sure you're not ticking that as default, and it would show in the front end like this. So the standard roster will be treated as the default roster will be treated as a base layer, and any other standard roster blocks will be placed on top of it, just like this. It for roster. Moving on to appointment waitlist. So patients who have been accepted to receive the program or service, but specifically are waiting for a particular appointment type or a provider can be listed in this waitlist. So you can locate this waitlist under this appointment, go to waitlist, just at the end here. In here, you can specify the team that you would like to bill it for. You can do all, or you can just choose one team that you would like to view. You can also show future waitlist client by ticking on this box right here. If you have any, it would display at the bottom here. So let's say now, if I would like to go into a team-specific waitlist, you will be able to see the name of the waitlist here for that team, the client for that patient, the patient for that team is here for that waitlist, and also any available appointments for staff that are assigned to this team on the right-hand side here. So when you're adding a new client and record a waitlist for this client, you can specify the client, the on-list date. So you can do today or 1 month from now, 1 week from now, for example. If you leave the provider blank, it will automatically select any. So it will put in an any. So that means this patient is happy with any provider on this list. Or if there is any specific provider that this patient would like to go with, you can just select that one. You can also choose the priority level or expiry date for this as well, and add in any comments there might be. So upon changing the provider, it will change from any to Jane here. And now if you going to assign this one to an available appointment where the provider is, let's say, Jane Wu, you will not be able to drag it to, let's say, Global Health. You would see this one, because now this one is the system recognize that this client would like to only go with Jane Wu as a provider. Hence, you get this warning message. So you can only drag them to Jane Wu. There you go. And it's going to ask you want to allocate this one to Jane. Something like that. You can go yes or no. And you can always, of course, just double clicking on this. And if you want to clear this out, click on Control X on your keyboard. It's going to clear that out. Okay, it's going to change it back to any. Now you can just assign them to anyone you like. And that should be it for appointment. Moving on to billing. So if I'm going to search for my favorite test client, say this guy, do invoice. So on the invoice screen, when you select the correct provider, the correct referral, you're gonna be able to see any remaining budget for that episode display here on this right-hand side. If that episode or referral doesn't link to any episode budget, you would not be able to see anything. So I believe this one, yep, you're not able to see it here. That means it doesn't link to any budget, but if there is any, it will be displayed there, just like that. And we have also removed the deleted OS entries from unbilled OS report. So in billing and scheduling, there is an unbilled OS report, which tell you which OS that hasn't been billed yet. So any OS that hasn't been billed yet will come up in this report. Now, previously, we do put everything here, even though it has been deleted. but we have made a small enhancement to exclude any deleted OS entry from the screen, from this report, to create less confusion with clients when running a report and cross-checking with their finance department, for example. And that concludes our session 1. On to session 2. I talked about some clinical document changes, some further episode changes, and also some general administrative changes. The first noticeable enhancement that you might see is a new mail-merge field called Client ID that is available under Medication module. So upon accessing a client record, going to where's my medications. Upon trying to prescribe something, you would now be able to see there's a new comments section here where you can specify a mail-merge field that looks something like this with a pointy bracket, client ID, and a closed pointy bracket. This one is gonna help this one is gonna populate that client ID when you try to preview or print it out as PDF. So if I don't want to print it out, I'm just going to preview that. So like this, you're going to see the client ID 1 is populated here as a mail-merge field. Something like that. We have also added a new mail-merge field called client profile image. So if the client has a profile picture, upon adding on a clinical note, any clinical notes, like file note, PDF, letter form, or care plan template, for example, and you should be able to locate that under category clients. If you go scroll down or to the bottom, in client profile image, you can double click on that, or you can drag and drop, and you should be able to see that client, patient, or client profile image here. We have also enabled admin staff to be able to view audit for each clinical document accessed by end user in admin module. So sorry, in audit module. So when you if you're an admin should have a role of, I believe, 1. So you can specify if you are an admin from admin clients. There you go. So it can be 1 or 2. If you're 1 or 2, you're an admin and you will have access to this audit module. Under this audit, you'll be able to see if the file node has been W, which means creating or writing the document. So if I just create that file node, I would see it like this here, which recorded the view on. And if I didn't create that, then it would not have created on because I cancel it out, for example. And if you, let's say, open a document, you would have an O instead of a W. And if you saving that document, you would have an S instead of the W. It would look something like this, WOSW, something like that. Similarly, with other stuff, you would also have, let's say for management plan, you would have like write, or for care plan, you would have something like copy, finalize, or print, or read, or write, etc., etc. And we've also done a major enhancement for clinical notes where user now have the ability to review any clinical document that are of RTF or PDF type. So under this column, you'll be able to identify if that document is a PDF or an RTF. So if they are any of those, then you can preview them here, just like this. So here, just like this. And you can toggle this one on and off with this tick box. Just untick or tick it. There you go. We have also done a major changes to how end user can manage their document templates in MasterCare EMR. So to do that, you can go to admin client. There should be a new tab called document templates. Under this document template, you can specify which type of template you would like to search, you would like to upload or import from. So for example, file note, you should see a prefix of note dash to the front of it. Or letter, you would see a letter with a dash or form dash. Similarly with a visit note or care plan, you would also have a care plans and dash. Except for PDF. For PDF, anything with the extension of .pdf would have the would come up under here for PDF form. You don't really need a prefix for PDF form to come up under this grid right here. So after choosing the type, you can click on this little folder right here, where you can specify the path for this template or for the PDF that you would like to import from. After choosing the directory, you can then just click OK and choose import. So I'll give it a sec, it's just frozen for me. Sorry, Lee, I didn't see your questions. Could you rename the tag column to labels on the screen? Are you talking about the clinical note screen? So unfortunately, that column is fixed. We cannot change any name on that columns. I believe at the moment it said what it said label, is it? Oh, sorry, it said tag for that column at the moment. Let me just go back to that clinical documents. So clinical notes. Yeah, this one is it. So for this one, all the column names are fixed, so you will not be able to change any name for the columns. If you do want that to be changed, I do afraid you will need to raise a request via support, and then we have to raise it without developer to have this one look at before changing this one, the naming of the column. Yes, correct. Yeah, it's just the naming that is a bit can be a bit confusing, because we do have clinical. We do have so for clinical document, you would have it something called tag. So remember how when I go to admin client, oh sorry, it's the same to the, it's not the same with the referral labels. If that's what you're talking about. Because the referral label before, it's this one. If you go to admin client, you would have label type, where it's only 2 type. That's for referral. But this tag, it's just for the document or the measure. So you would have like around 5 like this. And yeah, I do believe if we change it to label, we might confuse client with the referral labels or tags. So it's going to be kept as this is. Right, thanks, Lee. Just gonna move on to our next topic. So we were talking about editing and uploading templates. So document template. So after you have specified the path to load a folder, click on import folder, and it's going to import any files or notes or templates or letter or PDF that it can find here. After that, you have the ability to change the folder location. So let's say if you don't want this one to be stored in the parent locations and you want it to be in any subfolder, you can always just do this by just typing in / sub1, go click on save changes, and this one will now be saved on the parent folder PDF forms and subfolder sub1. You can then change the team that you would like this template to be available for. You can do all, you can do multiple team or just one team. You would also be able to specify if this one is current or is no longer current with this tick box right here. So if you change this one to this blue tick, that is current, save the changes. It will remove that deactivated date and deactivated by columns. And if you want to make something non-current, change it back to X, save changes, and it's going to populate with deactivated date and deactivated by. We have also added the ability for user to be able to upload files from their local location, from their local directory. So if you do have any PDF that you would like to upload from your local drive, you can also do that. Just go to the drive, specify, choose the location you would like that one to be uploaded for, and then just click open, and you should be able to upload that document onto this grid here, where then you can specify location, teams, the name, and etc. etc. For any importing or uploading documents, we have also added in some stats for those templates, including the number of copies saved using this template, number of team using this template, number of unique user using this template. So if a user use it 10 times, it's just going to record it once instead of 10. Also, number of times that the document has been created and has been printed out, and also the number of times it has been shared. Just to this one is to provide admin a much more a bigger picture in terms of which template has been utilized the most, and if no one uses it, you can always just deactivate it, so a user doesn't have to select or see that in front end. And upon adding in and specify which team can see which document, when you go to front end, that team will only be able to see that folder or that subfolder or that file here. So unless you specify for all, otherwise it's just going to show just that specific subfolder or folder for that team. There's also a function for copy existing template. So if you want to copy something, any template at all, choose that template, click on copy existing templates. It's going to ask if you want to copy the template and create a new one. Upon clicking yes, it's going to automatically use that location of that template and put it here. If you do want to change it, you can always do so by just deleting or adding any subfolder next to it. And the template name will have a dash copy next to it. Similarly like this, click on copy, you will now have a new one here. For any of these templates, you can also use it and set up a homepage form button as well. So if you go to set organization, under here, you should be able to locate homepage form button 1, 2, 3, 4. Under here, you'll be able to specify which one you would like to use, which PDF or which RTF you would like to use it for. Oh, sorry, let me correct myself. This one is only work for PDF, so you'll be able to choose which PDF you would like to use for this homepage button. So you can specify it by clicking on the drop down and choose any value, or you can just start typing in which one you'd like to choose, and it's just going to pop up the one that is the closest match to it. And then upon save and exit, when you go to the screen, you'll be able to see this full homepage button display up here to allow you a quicker access to that PDF. Yep, and on to our next topic. We have for doctors module. The previously this button is called Add Registrar, and we have renamed this one to call Add Registrar or Medical Officer, because now we have included in this list of staff any role that has officer or registrar with it. For example, medical officer, medical registrar, psychiatric registrar, etc., etc. So upon clicking on this, it will list all the staff with officer or registrar next to it. Yep, and we we also introduced the new APRA registration number. So by admin client module, go to the staff dashboard. So if I, there you go, staff. So if you go to a specific staff under other staff details, you should be able to locate the APRA registration date and APRA number just at the bottom like this, where you can record the date and record the number. And as I answered to Lee, sorry, to Brandon last time, we currently doesn't have a function to notify user when a registration is expired. But you can definitely record it there for record keeping. We have also added another major function for our MasterCare EMR, for our customized EMR report, where user now can select multi or all teams or any report in this MasterCare EMR report. However, if you would like to use that functionality, you would need to send support a request, because there is a couple line of code that we need to add onto these report. Anything that a team that is grouped by teams will be able to have that function. So for example, if I go to someone with this one, I will, so instead of just specify the date from date and to date, I can now specify the team that I would like this report to be applicable for. So I can do all team or just any one team, for example. And yep, if you do want any of this, just send support a request and we'll be able to support you further. And that should be it. That concludes our the recap of our 2 sessions from session 1 and 2 of MC EMR 786. If there is any other questions, please feel free to post it in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to leave and send us an email if you do have any question later on. And we're happy to answer them anytime. Yep, thank